Did you hear about Rand Paul's recent appearance on The View? Things got intense fast. For context, Rand Paul is a U.S. senator known for strongly opposing what he calls the woke agenda. So, it's no surprise he didn't exactly click with the show's hosts, especially Whoopi Goldberg. Paul was there to promote his book, The Case Against Socialism, but it didn't take long for the conversation to take a sharp turn. The hosts, led by Whoopi, came in hard, grilling him on everything from socialism to foreign policy. It was clear from the start that they weren't aiming for a casual chat. They were ready for a full-on debate. But Paul held his ground, firing back with strong arguments of his own. Let's just say it left the audience shocked. If you haven't seen it yet, it's definitely worth checking.
Turkey doesn't want Iran to take over everything. Israel doesn't want Iran to take over everything. And in fact, Israel actually stands up for themselves all the time.
They end up being in a bigger war.
Let me finish. Don't interrupt.
Sunny Hostin didn't waste any time getting into it. She brought up Venezuela and argued that its crisis had nothing to do with socialism. She was sharp and direct, making it clear she wasn't going to back down.
Massive taxes here, but we don't get any free stuff. We don't have free health care. Well, our public education system is a problem.
But Rand Paul wasn't buying it. He calmly pushed back, insisting that Venezuela's downfall was entirely due to socialist policies.
Case against socialism. Bernie Sanders is no longer alone on the debate stage. It seems like we're hearing more and more about socialism. In fact, 43% of Americans think it's a good thing. You are on the complete other end of that. Tell us about this book.
Well, one of the things we learned in writing the book is a lot of people say, well, we're not for Stalin, we're not for Hitler, we're for Scandinavia. So as we were researching the book, we actually found that Bernie Sanders' form of socialism actually is unpopular, and he would never get elected to anything in Denmark. In fact, the Prime Minister of Denmark, when he heard Bernie was going around saying they were socialists, says, no, we're not socialists. We have private property, a stock exchange, we have low corporate income taxes, we don't have a minimum wage. And the big difference, and this is where the big lie comes from, Bernie says we're going to give you all this free stuff, but we're only going to tax the rich people. In Scandinavia, they tax the working class, 25% sales tax, and an income tax starting at $60,000 is 60%. So really the difference between their country and our country is they do have more free stuff in Scandinavia, but they pay for it with massive taxes on the working class and the middle.
And Paul explained his stance on socialism by diving into key points from his book, The Case Against Socialism. He started by addressing the misconception many people have: we're not for Stalin or Hitler. We're for Scandinavia. As Paul dug into the research, he revealed that Bernie Sanders' version of socialism wouldn't even fly in Denmark. In fact, the Danish Prime Minister publicly refuted Bernie's claims, saying, "We're not socialist." Paul broke it down. Denmark and other Scandinavian countries have private property, a stock exchange, low corporate taxes, and no minimum wage. The real difference, Paul emphasized, is that while these countries do offer more free stuff, it comes at a high cost, massive taxes on the working class. He explained that in Scandinavia, there's a 25% sales tax, and anyone earning over $60,000 faces a 60% income tax. If you vote for socialism, he warned, you'll get socialism. The audience erupted in applause, something no one expected. But Whoopi Goldberg wasn't amused. Her sharp side eye at the audience's reaction was pure gold. It was a moment that had everyone talking.
Miami, there's tens of thousands of Venezuelan exiles living there. You talk a lot about Venezuela in your new book. I get a lot of political ads from the Republican Party. Donald Trump has tweeted this. Many have tweeted this. If you vote for Democrats, they will turn the United States into Venezuela. Do you think that's a fair statement to make?
Well, if you vote for a socialist, you might get socialism.
Come on, don't do that. Maduro is not a socialist. He's a corrupt, murderous thug who is starving his people.
That's not true.
That's not true? Maduro's not a thug and a murderer who's starving his people.
Let's have a conversation here. Chavez was a socialist, and socialism was the economic system of Venezuela.
And they stole. It's a kleptocracy. It's not socialism.
But here's the question is, they voted for socialism. They voted for, let me finish.
No, I can't let you finish. If you're going to say Maduro's not a murderous thug, I'm not letting you finish. But I'm a damn lie.
Wait, but...
And I've got a bunch of neighbors and friends who know this. Don't do this to me. Don't mansplain. I'm a 47-year-old girl.
Senator Rand Paul. His new book is called The Case Against Socialism, and we'll be right.
Things got even more heated when the conversation shifted to the troop withdrawal from Syria. Rand Paul began explaining the tough decisions behind pulling out and the reasoning behind it. But before he could finish, Whoopi Goldberg cut in, asking pointedly, "Yeah, but is that really the right way to do it?" Paul didn't miss a beat. He shot back, "So, what are we supposed to do? Stay in wars forever? Keep sending American kids into harm's way without a clear plan? No, Whoopi, that's not leadership. That's recklessness." The tension in the room was palpable, and the debate had everyone on the edge of their seats.
War with 50 soldiers. You have 50 soldiers and tens of thousands of Turkish troops amassing. The Turks are also allies. The Free Syrian Army were our allies for 7 years. They're allied with the Turks. The Kurds have been our allies. The Kurds, in all likelihood, are now going to be allies of Assad to try to carve out a place in Syria for themselves. It's a really complicated question. I guess from my perspective, I say, any of these people out here, their kids have to go to war. War's not a chess game. People lose their limbs and people die, and I think it's the least we owe to the kids that we're going to send into this war. Why are we going to war, and who are we fighting?
Before Rand Paul could finish his point, Whoopi interrupted sharply, snapping, "So you're just running away? What about our allies?" Staying as calm as ever, Paul fired back, "Our allies? You mean Turkey? The same Turkey stirring up chaos in the region? Come on, let's not pretend this is some black and white issue." The exchange grew so intense that the tension practically radiated off the screen. Finally, Whoopi, clearly fed up, cut him off mid-sentence and declared, "Let's go to break." The crowd fell completely silent, leaving an unmistakable chill in the air.
Isn't there?
So,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So, if you have allies and they are working with you and fighting with you, and 24 hours somebody wakes up and says, "No, we're out."
Right.
Is that the right way to do this?
I think the way we look at war is we don't look at
No. Is that the right way to do it?
Let me answer the question.
Okay.
When we decide whether or not we're sending our young people into harm's way, we should obey the Constitution, which says we should declare war and put them in a war theater. But let me finish.
Okay.
And here's the thing about it, is if you ask these people, Lindsey Graham and the Cheney war and all these warmongers that want to stay at war forever, who are we going to declare war on? They don't know who. We're going to declare war on Turkey, our ally,
Should we
the
ever
Free Syrian
walk
Army,
out
our ally?
in the middle? It's like walking
We
out.
should never be there in the first place.
That's not the question.
Sonny Hostin shifted the conversation to domestic policy, taking aim at Rand Paul's support for tax cuts, which she argued only benefit the rich. But Paul was prepared. The top 1% pay 40% of the income taxes in this country, he countered. The bottom 50% pay nothing. That's not oppression, that's fairness. Sonny, visibly unsettled, shot back, "Yeah, but what about free healthcare and education?" Paul didn't hesitate. "Free? Nothing is free," he said. "Take Denmark, where Bernie Sanders gets his ideas. The working class pays a 25% sales tax and 60% income tax. If that's your version of free, I hate to see what expensive looks like."
Is a problem. Seems like the only people that get free stuff are the very, very wealthy.
We have a different form of taxation in our country. Ours is much more progressive. So we've taken the poor off of the rolls. They don't pay income tax anymore. Most people below $50,000 don't pay any income tax. The top 1% in our country pay 40%.
Our audience says that's not true.
Well, the IRS statistics say that the top 1% in our country pay 40% of the income tax, and that those making less than $50,000.
Donald Trump doesn't pay any income.
The moment that set the internet on fire came when Whoopi declared, "I'm not left or right. I'm just American." Rand Paul, clearly unconvinced, fired back, "Well, Whoopi, if you're just American, maybe you should try listening to ideas that don't fit your narrative. That's what real Americans do." The crowd erupted, clapping and cheering, catching everyone off guard. And Whoopi, she was left completely speechless. It was a jaw-dropping moment no one saw coming.
Should we be taking? Should we be walking out on people?
But here's the thing is, left and right have agreed in the past that regime change doesn't work. When we got rid of Hussein, we got chaos and more terrorism. When we got rid of Gaddafi, chaos and more terrorism.
But Senator, we're here now, though. But we're here.
Yeah. We're not really here. We got 50 people. We're not
here.
doing anything.
Yeah, but frankly,
50 people
hold on,
is very symbolic.
Hold on.
And that is why
and
it
you
kept
tell their parents
Turkey
that.
from invading.
You tell their parents
Isn't Isn't that true?
You tell the parents of those 50 kids how great the symbolism was when a suicide bomber blows up all 50
But
kids.
didn't it
You
keep
tell them
Turkey
why-
from
no,
invading?
No, I'm not.
And pulling them gave
You tell
Turkey
their
the
parents.
green light.
You tell their
Isn't
parents
that
why
true?
they're there.
But isn't that true?
You tell their parents why they're
Isn't
there.
it true that Turkey
You
Senator
tell-
not
How do you feel about
we have
how do you feel about
So
the video
I
that we're
actually-
seeing of the
I find-
Kurds getting slaughtered?
I find the position of pulling out of these wars, that's a popular one, and I am there. There's a difference in having a strategy and leaving the Kurds there to die, which is where they are now. They are left there to die, and that is now, here's what I'd argue,
that's simply wrong.
it's the
That's simply
GOP's
wrong.
problem.
That's simply wrong and an
ISIS fighters,
accusation.
as being reported, thousands are going to escape from these prisons because the Kurds can't protect
Well, no, that
themselves.
is
Up
that
to
is
70,000, according to a NATO official.
What's the people who don't like the
Is that a
policy?
safer world with
That's the
ISIS
people,
running around?
That's the people who want to stay forever. These are the same people.
I don't want to stay forever,
Let
but
me
isn't
finish
there a
answering the
strategy?
question, okay? I let you talk. You let me talk. These are the same people. These are the same people that would still have us in Vietnam. These are the same people who always say, stay at war, stay at war, stay at war. It has not helped us. We've been in Afghanistan for 19 years. The same people complaining about this. The Cheneys, Lindsey Graham, you know what they say about Afghanistan? It would be precipitous to leave. We've been there 19 years. There's no mission, and I'm not
Walking
sending
out on
one more
people,
kid.
but there's more
I'm not
questions.
voting to
How about
send
the
one
idea
more
of
kid to
breaking,
Afghanistan.
breaking our word as Americans, of breaking our words to our allies, of having people who risk their lives, who've been there for years, and what message does that send internationally to other allies if we abandon them?
I think the only duty we owe and the only oath I take is to the Constitution. I didn't promise to take the country to war. I promised not to take the country to war. So did President Trump, by the way.
And
So if
but
there's-
the
if there's another-
Constitution says protecting you from enemies, foreign and domestic.
Yeah.
And there's many of us who feel that this puts us in greater danger because of what it means vis-a-vis ISIS. I mean, we don't live, we're not alone on this planet.
And anybody who tries to make the argument that someone in Syria is a danger to our country is really not paying attention.
Oh, I think Assad is in Syria and is a hell of a danger to our country and our world.
Well, actually, if you look at the war is very complicated. So you had Assad on one side. On the other side, you had Sunni extremists, Al-Qaeda and al-Nusra. These are the people that have been allied with the Saudi version of Islam that has been promoting Islamism and Islamist strategy around the world and jihadism. That was the side of the war we were fighting. So if that side of the war actually won, I think we actually might be in more danger. I don't like Assad, but the other people on the other side are
Can I
Sunni
ask you
extremists
something,
that I
though?
don't like either.
How close is too close for Iran to be near Israel? Because this now creates a huge vacuum where Iran wants to take over Damascus, which is what they're now going to be capable of doing, and they're going to be that much closer to Israel, which is, in fact, one of our closest allies. Does that concern you at all?
I think the whole situation is so confusing that none of us are really getting this right. Actually, Turkey doesn't want Iran to take over everything. Israel doesn't want Iran to take over everything. And in fact, Israel actually stands up for themselves all the time.
may end up being in a bigger
Let me
war
finish.
because of
Let me finish. Don't interrupt. So Iran gets up against the...
By the time the segment ended, Whoopi and the other host looked visibly shaken, while Rand Paul walked off calm and collected, as if it was just another day at the office. He left behind a string of viral moments and a panel that seemed stunned by what had just unfolded. This wasn't your typical political debate. It was a masterclass in staying cool under pressure and standing firm on your beliefs. Love him or hate him, one thing's certain, Rand Paul came ready to play.